Hello, grade 8s, and welcome to your first lesson of EMS, Economic Management Studies. Ms. Tutton and I are so excited to have you girls with us, and we can't wait to meet you face to face when we are back at school. The first topic we are going to look at is entrepreneurship. And some of you may have heard of entrepreneurship, and for some of you girls, it may be a completely new word, which is absolutely fine. Right, so here are your teachers for the year, Miss Tutton and myself, Miss Forrester. We don't usually ride unicorns or throw confetti, but we thought we would just introduce ourselves to you on little memojis. And once we're back at school, we can obviously meet you face to face. We will also be talking to you girls on Google Meets. So for now, we're going to communicate to you through our little emojis. So what's in store for term 1 in EMS? Let's have a look. So we are going to look at entrepreneurship. That's what we're going to start with. So the first bit is going to be, what is an entrepreneur and what are the different characteristics of an entrepreneur? Then we're going to look at different types of entrepreneurs as well as the advantages and disadvantages of being an entrepreneur. Then we're going to go into different forms of ownership. So look at different types of businesses and different ownerships of those businesses. Then we're actually going to look at a business plan. And in that business plan, we're going to understand all the different elements. So you'll actually be able to write your own business plan. And in that, we're going to look at the executive summary, the SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and a financial plan, which is the money around the business, as well as a markets analysis. So I'm sure a lot of you girls are actually wondering, what is an entrepreneur? In primary school, you may have actually done any entrepreneur projects, and maybe when we have our Google Meet, we can chat about that if it's something that you've done. But in terms of a definition, an entrepreneur, so it's a person who sees a gap in the markets. So what is a gap in the markets? So the word gap means something that doesn't exist. So the market is the business environment. So somebody who sees a gap, it's something missing from that business environment or missing from the world. So it's somebody who sees a gap in the markets and takes a risk, okay? Look at the word risk, to start a business to make a profit. So there's 3 keywords there: the gap in the markets, taking the risk, and you want to make a profit. There'd be absolutely no point running a business and starting a business if your aim was to not make money. Everybody wants to make a profit. So profits is when you are earning more money than the expenses that are in your business. So it's when you actually start to make a success of your business. And this can sometimes take many years. Let's look at the word risk. So a risk is like taking a chance. Because an entrepreneur is a person who goes on their own to start their own business, they would have to take some kind of risk, because often somebody has a job or they're employed at a company, or they actually haven't been working, or they just finished school, but you take some kind of chance, you take some kind of risk to start this business, and with the whole aim of making a profit. As we go through more detail of being an entrepreneur, now you know what an entrepreneur is. So I want you to start thinking about, do you know any famous entrepreneurs in the world? Do you maybe know somebody in your family who's an entrepreneur? So start thinking about those different things before we look at the different characteristics on the next slide. So when you are an entrepreneur, there's different characteristics that you may have. Remember that these are only just a few characteristics. These aren't all the characteristics. There's many, many more. So let's start a look. First, opportunity seeking. Remember, the definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who sees that gap in the market, somebody who sees an opportunity. So they have to be opportunity seeking. They see that there's a need for their product or their business. They are somebody who's creative or innovative. So the word innovative means that you innovate something, you create something new, it's unique, it's different, something that's new on the market that hasn't been seen before. So at the moment, there are a lot of people as individual businesses and shops and different brands that are selling face masks because it's something that we need at the moment. So if you were to start a business selling face masks, that at the moment would not have been a new, creative, innovative opportunity. Whereas potentially maybe 8 months ago, when the whole pandemic actually started, that would have been an entrepreneur who then decided that they're going to manufacture face masks because there's an opportunity. There was a gap in the market. There was nobody manufacturing face masks at that time. They had came up with a creative, innovative idea. You can get lots of different prints. You can even get an animal face printed on a mask. So there's innovation behind the idea. Then the next one is a high risk taker. So somebody who takes a risk. Remember the definition. An entrepreneur is somebody who sees a gap in the market. They see the opportunity and they take a risk. So they're a high risk taker. Somebody who's afraid of taking a risk isn't going to be an entrepreneur who wants to take a risk and take a high risk. If taking a risk makes you feel nervous or uncomfortable, it's not really a characteristic of an entrepreneur because you have to take that risk and that leap of faith. Self-reliant, what does that actually mean? Self means yourself and reliant means relying on. So if you are self-reliant, you rely on yourself. So that means an entrepreneur, you need to be independent, you need to be able to work on your own because you actually become everything in the business. You become the finance, you become the administration, you become the people person, you become the technology person. You need to be able to rely on yourself and know that you are hardworking to be able to run this business. That then takes us to the next point, which is determined. You need to work hard because you are becoming the whole business as an entrepreneur. You need to have determination and self-motivation to actually succeed. What is difficult sometimes when you are an entrepreneur is usually, and maybe some of your parents work in a big business, they'll take leave and have some time off and they can actually just relax and shut down. Sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, if you're not working, there's no business. So no work, no pay. So sometimes it's very difficult to take time off or just have a bit of a holiday. So you've got to be very determined and motivated to just keep going. Flexible. So flexible means that you must be ready for the ups and the downs and lots of changes. Because you are taking a risk and you're coming up with a new product or a new service, you've got to be flexible that sometimes it may not work, it may not take off, maybe people don't like your products, or you create something and it doesn't work. You've got to be flexible to be able to take that, go back, maybe rechange your idea. You've also got to be flexible with your time. Sometimes you may have to work really long hours. And that takes us then to the last point, which is motivation, which I think motivated links with all the characteristics that we've got there. Motivation, you've got to be motivated to get up and do what you love and do what you do. Often an entrepreneur has a passion or loves something, and this idea that they found comes from something that they love. For example, somebody who loves to surf may come up with a new innovative type of surfboard or surfboard cover or something that they can implement into a business. So sometimes your hobbies or something that you love actually turns into a business idea. So you've got to keep yourself motivated. And often if you're doing something that you love, you will be motivated to succeed. So now I want you to think, are there any other characteristics of an entrepreneur that you can think of? Right, now it's time to really put your thinking caps on. As you can see, Miss Tutton and I are really thinking hard. We've got our frowning faces on. So you need to think, now that you understand what an entrepreneur is, and you also understand the characteristics of an entrepreneur, you need to think, who do I know that is actually an entrepreneur? There may be one in your own house. Could be your mum or your dad, or a brother or sister who's older than you. So remember, entrepreneurs do not only have to be famous people. Could be anybody who's got an exciting idea and they're wanting to start a business and to make a profit. So think about it if there's anybody that you know. Let's have a look at some of these examples that we've got here. We'll start with Virgin. So I wonder if any of you know who was the famous entrepreneur who started Virgin. Okay, so that was Richard Branson. Richard Branson actually started Virgin as Virgin Airlines. Okay, so Virgin Airlines, he was actually stuck on an airplane once, and the airplane was delayed, and he was sitting there and getting frustrated, and he thought, no, he needs to do something. And that's actually how Virgin Airlines started. He saw that markets, and there was a gap, and he wanted to do an airline service that was very different. And now Virgin is so big. There's over 200 brands within Virgin. So we've got Virgin Active, Virgin Mobile. There's even Virgin Money, Virgin Books, Virgin Media. There's even a Virgin Casino. So there's like almost 200 brands within the Virgin banner. So Richard Branson, who's this guy here, if no one's seen him, he came up with this idea, the Virgin brand, and it has just expanded, and he's one of the most famous entrepreneurs that we know about. Then let's have a look at Oprah Winfrey. So you're probably thinking, but she doesn't sell anything. How can she be an entrepreneur? So she is an entrepreneur because there was a gap in the daily talk shows and interviews and in general entertainment on the TV, but providing something meaningful and inspirational, especially for ladies. So Oprah Winfrey started almost her own brand with these talk shows, and she was absolutely an entrepreneur as well. Everybody knows about Facebook, okay? But I wonder if any of you know who was the man who invented Facebook. Okay, so if you answered Mark Zuckerberg, well done. If you didn't know that, make sure you write that down. So Mark Zuckerberg was he saw a market that there was no way for people to connect socially with each other and virtually and socially and invite friends and give updates on personal things and meet people. So he created Facebook, and now it is a worldwide phenomenon and everybody uses Facebook. Then this gentleman here, don't know if anyone knows who he is. Okay, that gentleman is Bill Gates. So Bill Gates is famous for Microsoft, okay, which is the software program in the computers. So when he was at school, he created his first computer program. So he was really, really good at computer and technical things. And then he just developed more and more and more software and programs. And now he's one of the richest people in the world because he's now runs Microsoft, and every single computer out there runs on the Microsoft system. Right, going to the top left corner, that gentleman is called Henry Ford. And he was the entrepreneur behind the first Ford car. So, lots of different things to think about. So, I want you to start putting your thinking hats on because you're now going to do a bit of an activity. Right, class activity. So you're going to be sent a Google form, which you're going to click on the link and you're going to record your responses. The responses will be sent to your teacher so that in our the next time that we meet on Google Meets, we can actually discuss your answers. The first part is you need to research someone famous who you think is an entrepreneur. You can use the ones that we just went through now. Otherwise, go onto Google and do an interesting search and see if you can come up with anyone really, really interesting. Otherwise, you can research the ones that if you've got no other ideas, but go into a lot more detail and find out how it started, how long they've been an entrepreneur for what inspired them. Okay, then you need to look and say, what kind of entrepreneurial characteristics do you think that person has? And what are they famous for? Then the second part, It says, do you personally know anybody who is an entrepreneur? Describe what they do and what kind of characteristics do they have. If you're stuck on part 2 and you personally don't know anybody in your family or your friends who's an entrepreneur, that's really not a problem, as long as you've done the research on somebody famous. But I would love to hear about the girls in grade 8 who's got really interesting family members or friends who are actually entrepreneurs. Okay, so that's the end of the first lesson. You can go and do your activity now. Please make sure that you've read through your notes on page 1, as well as go through the video and the slides. Have a nice day.